Okay, so core analysis, grading, just some notes here to help you move on because you will have new core analysis questions to focus on this week as we prep for our exam that will happen on Monday of next week. So the first thing I notice here with this is we don't know what the question is, so it's not formatted with the question at the top. And so the question for this one would be, to what extent and in what ways can the Renaissance be considered a turning point in the Western intellectual and cultural traditions? And so this is question number 1. So you want to put that at the top in the format just like the template I gave you. What you're going to address here, if we are going to answer the freaking question, is that you would want to know how much of a change is there in the Renaissance. How much of a change from the Middle Ages are there to the Renaissance as far as it is intellectually and culturally. And so then also it's not following the outline with Roman numerals, which makes it harder for me to find the info as I'm grading. It's kind of in a written out style, which you'll do when you write essays, but not for the core analysis worksheet. You want it to be more of a skeleton or an outline. And so if we take a look, I think we can see there's an attempt at XYZ here, although it's a little bit muddled. So we have the Renaissance was the dawn of the beginning back in 1300 when it began. What we know today is Italy. The Renaissance was the rebirth of Greek and Roman arts and the beginning of humanism and of economic growth in Europe. So I don't think that that would work, the economic growth. It's not cultural or intellectual. So it looks like there's an attempt here for humanism as X and economic as Y, but I'd take that one. I wouldn't put economic boom in here. And as Z, it looks like we're attempting a change on self-worth, but I can't tell what the change is. So this is a little bit muddled in the XYZ and the POA here because you want to really just address intellectual and cultural changes. And so then when it looks like we come down here, this is the attempt at the topic sentence, the ancient Greco and Roman arts greatly influenced the classical masterpieces created during the Renaissance. But you would need to pull here from your thesis up here what the X was. And so you would need to include here, it changed it from what? You need a turning point. This question is asking you for how it was different than the Middle Ages, how it was a turning point. And so not addressing that isn't answering the question. You need to show the specific changes from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance intellectually and culturally. And so it looks like the first topic sentence here is trying to hint at maybe humanism. But again, our evidence here would need to show a turning point, show a change, compare the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. And so here circle what the attempt is at the topic sentence, but again, it's missing the turning point, which isn't answering the question. And then we do have some evidence here of humanism, of some of the things that came about in the Renaissance, but yet it is not showing what it was like in the Middle Ages. So need to make sure that you tackle that. So X here for our XYZ, okay, it needs some work. And so then we have our topic sentence for Y here. Of course, you need the Roman numerals here to set it apart. But again, economy just isn't going to work for Y. And so this would need to be reworked here and stick with the cultural or intellectual traditions. And economy doesn't fit there. So really, so far we just have an X. Our Y isn't supporting or answering the question here. And so then all of the facts continue here with economy, but we have to cross that one out. So we don't have a Y, and we really have no Z. There's no attempt at a third point here, or not one that was given evidence to. And so then this looks like what would be the attempt at the conclusion. The Italian peninsula is vital to Europe's gain of wealth during the Renaissance. And so, again, that's going towards economy, so we can't really keep that. In 1300, the dawn of a new era called the Renaissance began. The Italian peninsula, the revival of ancient Greek and Roman arts, the exponential increase in wealth. So, again, economy, not cultural, intellectual. Remember to answer the freaking question. Belief of humanism, so an attempt there, again, at the X, Greek and Roman culture had greatly influenced Europe through architecture, painting, and literature, but it doesn't tell what that influence is, how big the change is. And then again, we have this financial here, which we had to take out. And then it almost looks like an attempt at Z here in the final, but it wasn't attempted in the thesis or in the body paragraph, finally changing the perspective of some people, their self-worth, and the capabilities of man. So again, maybe an attempt here at humanism, but make sure you're answering the question. The format of this isn't correct. You want to keep it in the template format with the Roman numerals and then setting, XYZ, POA, topic sentences, and then listing your facts. So this one would need some reworking for question number 1. And so here's question number 2. The format, the structure, it's set up correctly, typed in the correct format. And so the question is at the top of the page. Analyze the influence of humanism on the visual arts in the Italian Renaissance. Use at least 3 specific works to support your analysis. So we have the thesis paragraph set up with Roman numerals. So setting is A here. In the time of the Italian Renaissance, humanism commenced the revival of antiquity, mainly from Greece and Rome. So good setting. XYZ. During this time period, humanism had a great influence on the visual arts, which are painting, sculpting, and architecture. So we have an X, a Y, and a Z, so that's perfect. And then we have our POA here. Paintings came to life with the new methods and techniques glorifying the human body and life. So that's an explanation of our X. Sculpting was inspired by classical influences such as the Greeks and Romans. So there's our Y. And lastly, architecture brought back the Greco-Roman structures and philosophy. So good. So good plan of action here. And then we have Roman numeral number 2, our first body paragraph, topic sentence. Renaissance paintings lost the Gothic style of the Middle Ages and came to life with new approaches and concept. So there's a good topic sentence relating back to our X here, and then it goes straight into our facts that support X. I like the formatting here, so I know I'm going back to X in our XYZ. And then we have our fact 1, the new artistic techniques consist of perspective, chiaroscuro, and sfumato, which in turn is at one point used to glorify the body of individuals. And so good. We're talking about that using actual examples. Remember, now we're going to have to look for 3 specific works because it specifically is asking you to support using at least 3 works to support your analysis or to support your argument. And so here we're going to have, let me scroll down. Okay, so here we have facts, good. We have Arnolfini and his wife, so there's a use of one specific art. Fact, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, so another specific piece of art. And then our clincher sentence for paragraph X, although humanism did have a great influence on paintings, it also had a contribution to sculpting. So awesome, so it's taking us from our argument for X and leading us into Y with sculpting. And so sculpting is influenced by Greece and Rome, sculptures and techniques. You could also say by Greco-Roman. That would be maybe a better way to phrase that. So note that's a perfect clincher, and it's going to move us into our topic sentence for Y. Sculpting is influenced by Greco-Roman sculptures and techniques. Okay, and then facts that go with partition Y. Okay, so first fact here, Michelangelo's David is a humanistic sculpture that worships the limitless potential of the male body. So a specific example, awesome, goes with fact with Y. Okay, and then we have Donatello's David, so another specific example, stance of contrapposto. And then clincher sentence for paragraph Y, sculptors took lots of techniques from the ancient Greeks and Romans, but the architects also brought back ideas. Okay, so great transition into our topic sentence for Z's. Architecture brought back some of the structures and philosophies of ancient civilizations. And then facts that go with Z, the dome. So we have Berlici, okay, El Duomo. Okay, so another specific reference to a piece. Use columns, architectural structures, less detail, focused on balance and form. And then clincher sentence for paragraph C, humanism definitely has an influence and gives a contribution to the visual arts in the Renaissance time period. Okay, so awesome, that clincher works, and let's move on to the conclusion. Okay, so conclusion. I like how the directions are here. We state the thesis exactly, synthesize the topic sentence, and include the historical significance. So, significance in the time of the Italian Renaissance, humanism began the revitalization of ancient times, largely from Greece and Rome. Throughout this period, humanism had a pronounced effect on the visual arts, which is painting, sculpting, and architecture. Great. So, reference back to XYZ. Painting showcased realistic details with different procedures and practices that worship the anthropological sculpting was influenced by traditional impacts from the Greeks and Romans. Finally, construction conveyed the theme of Greco-Roman buildings and values. The historic importance is that instead of losing all of this found knowledge that we could grow from it was reborn in the Renaissance. I would maybe leave the we out. Renaissance period, humanism revived the ancient civilizations, not only the visual arts, but other aspects in the time period of the Renaissance. Without the impact humanism had on our world today, I would again, maybe be less informal with the we cannot really we will achieve great potential, but overall topic sentence good. um, Overall well done on the conclusion. This is a pretty tight core analysis worksheet, very acceptable, will work out to be a very strong FRQ when written out. And let's move on to our final question, number 3. To what extent and in what ways did women participate in the Renaissance? Okay, there's some formatting here, to what extent the question's here, but it's not exactly set up with the Roman numerals, like the core analysis worksheet, so I'd really like you guys to focus on that when you set up the worksheet. It makes me easier to find exactly what I need and gets you into a routine on formatting it. We have our question, setting the Renaissance was a time period of rebirth of classical works from 1400s to 1550, so the setting is good. So our XYZ, many important figures participated in the Renaissance, mostly men. Niccolo Machiavelli, Leonardo da Vinci, and many others. Women also participated in the Renaissance, such as Isabella d'Este and Jane Seymour. This isn't answering the question. It's not answering to what extent and in what ways and how many ways women participated in the Renaissance. So I would not give this a strong rating for an XYZ. Let's see about plan of action. So, however, women participated in the Renaissance to a minor extent. Women participated in the Renaissance socially by maintaining the household, politically by giving heir, and ruling a country, and religiously by serving God. This doesn't answer the question either. There's maybe some X, Y, and Z in here trying to attempt the X, Y, and Z in the plan of action, but it's not answering the freaking question. It doesn't show how women participated and to what extent. I would probably, for my XYZ right here, have grouped it into X, poor women, no Renaissance. Y, wealthy women had some changes in education, but socially were the same, because you have to give that extent. So, of course, for poor women, no extent. Wealthy women, some extent in education, but none socially. And then for Z, I probably would have done some women participate, such as some rich women got to participate, such as Pizan, etc. And so, yeah, not really strong here with answering the question. Okay, so here's our facts for the attempted X, merchants off the trade, husband's missing place, educating the children, the child was a boy. This is still focusing more on men and not showing to the extent that this was a change for women during the Renaissance. For why women participate in the Renaissance politically by giving heir, having children on certain occasions being it's still not showing really to the extent that there was a change. This isn't a very strong X or Y. You'd also want to always list your facts out like fact boom, fact boom, fact boom. So even if these were supporting facts, they're not structured correctly. So make sure that it's a lot more of writing in paragraph form than you want to do for your core analysis worksheet. Okay, and so topic sentence for Z. Finally, women participated in the Renaissance religiously by serving God. I would not consider this a Z or plan of action here either. Just not supported by facts. And so finally, let's take a look at the conclusion here really quickly. Yeah, and since X, Y, and Z really weren't there. You can't say women, they didn't have an important role, but you aren't showing to what extent here. And just, it really isn't. Make sure when you're reading the prompt that you are answering everything that the question's asking for, because this is not analyzing to the extent and doesn't have a strong X, Y, or Z grouping. And so those are a little bit of a rundown of a good kind of middle and lower end of the core analysis worksheet. Things to remember. First, I've pulled from papers from several different years, so as not to call anyone out on the grading here, so I'll be trying to figure out whose paper's who. Secondly, remember the formatting. I want it just like the core analysis or core structure worksheet is set up, with the Roman numerals, thesis paragraph setting, XYZ, plan of action, body paragraphs, topic, sentence, facts listed, dun dun dun, then your clincher sentence, and then moving into the next paragraph. So make sure that's there. Make sure the question's at the top of the page. Make sure you're answering the freaking question. Make sure you've read over that prompt. You've circled what it's asking. You are giving the setting, making sure you know what time frame you're in. Also, please don't be afraid to go out and do extra research. I think with some of these, what would have helped is pulling additional text, not just my lecture and Merriman, but finding other texts which are readily available to you in the classroom to make your FRQ stronger. So be thinking about that when we go into our next core analysis worksheet this week as we prep for our exam. And so we will do Wars of Religion, our final portion, the 30 Years' War, which is actually 30 years. Not like the 100 Years' War, in class tomorrow, or I guess I should say, since will be Tuesday, and then we will begin prepping for our exam and going over our review packets. So you'll want to make sure that you have those done so that you can get the answers from me, and then we'll do some Jeopardy, get your next FRQ analysis questions, and then give you a chance over the weekend to prep for the exam.